Hello and welcome to a new tutorial. This time we're going to make a logo animation in After Effects. Let's see the preview of this tutorial. I open After Effects and I create a new composition. I name it a main comp and I set the width to 9020 and the height by 1080 pixels. I set the frame rate about 30 seconds and also the duration 30 seconds. And I choose a background color and the color is black. It doesn't really matter for this one. And I press OK. Then I double press here under the main comp. And then I take my file. I set it to composition retain layer sizes and I import this one. What I did in Illustrator was I separate every single layer. So I drag the NASA logo animation tutorial layer composition here on the timeline, and if I double press here, then you can see all the layers here from the Illustrator file. I go back to my main comp and I will scale it a little bit. And I change the position also a little, like this. I close every single thing and I go back to my layers here. And first what I'm gonna do is I will animate a fire animation here. I do this by select the fire layer and I select here effects and presets. If you can't find it, you need to go to Window, Effects and Presets, and here I look for a wave warp and I drag it to the fire layer here, and normally you can see here all these things. I set the wave type about sine, wave height around 1, wave width around 13, yes, and the direction I set this one to 0 and this one to 65, and the wave speed I set it to 1, so I leave this. Also the phase I set all these things to 0. The pinning I set this to bottom edge here. Then I set another wave warp effect on the fire layer, the second one, and I set the wave type again to sine, the wave height around 5, the wave width around 40, the direction I leave this, the wave speed also, the pinning also, the phase also. And now you can see the animation a little. I will zoom in so that you can see it. That looks really good, but now I see that it overlaps, so I need to change the fire under the rocket space layer. That is a lot better. And now what I'm gonna do is I link this fire layer to the rocket space layer, and if you can't see it, you need to right click, columns, and then parent and link. So I take this thing and I drag it to the rocket space layer to link this with each other. And what this does is if I go to the rocket space layer, if I press P and I will change the position. So what I want to do is I zoom out. I wanna set a rocket space here and then I let it into the screen and then it go outside of the screen. So I will drag this and I place it here, and if you can see, the fire moves with the rocket space, and that's what we want. So I place this around here, I press the P on my keyboard for position and I set a stopwatch on, go a few frames further and I drag it to the other side of the canvas. And now I will look, it's really quick, so I will set it a little bit further on the timeline, the last keyframe, like this, and now I will ease it. You can press F9 on your keyboard or you can select this both and right click keyframe assistant easy ease. This one creates a smoother transition. That's what we want. I will save it. And now our thing is animated already. I will close the rocket space layer. And now I will animate the stone layers. So what I want to do is I will loop this one and I will move this a little. I do this to select a stone layer. I go to Effect, Distort, Transformation. I press the stopwatch on position and then I select again the stone layer. I press P on my keyboard and now what I want to do is I hold Alt on my keyboard and now I press on the stopwatch to open this, and now I set wiggle around 115. Now I will see what this does. Here you can see that it moves and that's what we want. So now I select all the stone layers. I go to Effect again, Distort, Transform. I do the same. I press the stopwatch on position and then I press P on my keyboard. I press Alt and then I set here wiggle. Also the same settings. Let's see. Yes, here this one moves also. And now I need to do this thing for all the other layers. And now you can see that all the stones are moving, so that looks really good. I press U on my keyboard, or you can close all these things with these arrows here. So now we have animated our rocket space, fire and all the stones. Now I want to animate the star shape layers. And I do this by selecting all three, right click, pre-compose, and I name it stars. And now it is on a different composition. I go to the beginning of the timeline, I press S on my keyboard, I press here the stopwatch, I set it to 0, then I go a little bit further on the timeline. I set it to 102. I go a little bit further, I set it again to 0. A little bit further, also 0. A little bit further, 102. A little bit further, 0. I will change the position a little to see it, and now you can see that it blinks a little. Maybe I want to change here over this keyframes a little bit bigger. So let's see how it looks. Yes, and now I select all the keyframes. I press F9 to easy ease this thing. That looks really good. Now I will press Ctrl C to copy this one. I select the star 2, press Ctrl V to paste them. If you can see here, I will select all the keyframes and I place it a little bit on the beginning of a timeline. Alright, and I do the same thing for stars number 1, Ctrl V. I place it also in the beginning of a timeline, maybe a little bit further, like this. Now I want to check it. Yeah, that looks really good. I will save it, and now I need to animate only the logo animation. So I go to my projects, I double press here again, and I choose here the NASA logo layer. I place it as footage like this, and I drag it under all the stone layers, and I need to scale this, if you can see. So I will move it also a little bit to the top. So I guess I need to play it. Alright, what I want to do is I will set this logo layer a little bit further on the timeline, and if the rocket space is here, then I want the logo visible, maybe around here. So what I do is I press S on my keyboard to open the scale. I press the stopwatch, I set it to 0. Then I set it a little bit bigger on the screen. So I easy ease this also, so I select all the keyframes, press F9 on my keyboard to create a smoother transition. I go to my graph editor, and then I press right mouse knob and I select edit speed graph here, and then I select the keyframe and I create a little mountain. And then I go again to the timeline, and now I will set an animation that it will rotate a little. So I press R on my keyboard and I press here the stopwatch. I go a little bit further on the timeline when it is the size that it needs to be, and I drag here on these settings. Let's see. That's not good. So let's see. I will remove the middle one and I drag it a little bit further on the timeline. Let's see how it looks in the main comp. And now we have our own NASA logo animation. Let me know in the comments which logo I need to animate, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I hope you liked this video and I hope I see you by the next tutorial. Thanks for watching.